Hello everyone and welcome. This is the 7th video in a multi-part presentation on the 4 Charters of American Freedom. The 4 Charters of American Freedom are the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the amendments to the Constitution. We discussed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in previous presentation, and in this presentation we will discuss the 3rd Charter of Freedom, which is the Bill of Rights. So let's begin. As we discussed in a previous presentation, the Constitution is made up of a preamble or an introduction and then 7 articles. The 5th article provides that the Constitution is a dynamic document that can be modified and updated over time to meet the needs of an expanding and evolving country. Since its ratification, the Constitution has been amended 27 times pursuant to Article 5. The first 10 of those amendments are known as the Bill of Rights. The 10 amendments making up the Bill of Rights were drafted and ratified in 1791, about 3 years after the Constitution was ratified. The Bill of Rights was designed to provide American citizens with fundamental rights and personal freedoms. The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights provides Americans with certain personal freedoms, including freedom of religion by prohibiting the establishment of an official or exclusive church or sect for our country. Freedom of speech to publish one's opinions without fear of retribution, except that they can be limited for reasons of defamation, obscenity, and censoring during wartime. Then freedom of assembly to protest government actions or officials, including marching and picketing. And then finally, freedom to petition the government, make a complaint, or seek assistance from the government without fear of retribution. The Second Amendment provides American citizens with the right to bear arms, where it says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." During the Revolutionary War era, before the Constitution was ratified, militia referred to groups of men who banded together to protect their communities, towns, colonies, and eventually the states. As our nation has matured, a spirited debate has emerged over how the Second Amendment should be interpreted. One side to the right advocates for the rights of individuals to bear arms, while the other side to the left advocates for only formal militias to bear arms, like police departments and sheriff's offices. The Third Amendment arose from anger caused by the King of England requiring the colonists to feed and house British soldiers. This amendment to the Constitution prohibits the federal government from ever repeating the same injustice on American citizens. The Fourth Amendment applies to arrests and searches of citizens, their homes, or other private property. It prevents such an action without a warrant and places a neutral magistrate or judge between the police and citizens in conducting such arrests and searches. The Fifth Amendment provides further protections to those accused but not convicted of crimes. This first part of this amendment requires that an impartial jury indict citizens accused of serious crimes. This further places a neutral third party between the accused and the police. The second part of this amendment provides that when a person has been convicted or acquitted by a jury, that they cannot be tried twice for the same offense. This requires the government to thoroughly collect all available evidence before prosecuting and prevents continual harassment by way of ongoing prosecution of a single offense. The third part of this amendment requires that the prosecution must establish guilt by independent evidence and not by extorting confession from the accused. This allows the accused to plead the fifth at their discretion to avoid incriminating themselves during prosecution. The one exception, though, is that voluntary confessions are acceptable. The fourth part of this amendment provides that the government cannot cause summary convictions of the accused without following established protocols for prosecution. And finally, the fifth part of this amendment provides that the government cannot seize property without paying just and fair compensation. For example, when government condemns part of a farmer's land to build a highway, the government must pay the farmer fair market value for the portion of property they seized from the farmer. The Sixth Amendment provides further protections to those accused of crimes, where the accused can, number one, be informed of criminal charges, 2, be represented by a lawyer. 3, require witnesses to publicly testify against them in court. 4, call their own witnesses. 5, have a trial by an impartial jury. And 6, have a speedy public trial. The Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments that we just discussed directly rebut the unjustified treatment the colonists received from King George III and provided citizens with basic rights when accused of crimes, with fair and impartial trials by juries of their peers. The Seventh Amendment gave the right to a jury trial in civil matters that are unrelated to criminal prosecutions. They include trials involving issues like medical malpractice, contract disputes, automobile accidents, and property disputes. The Eighth Amendment prevents the use of excessive bail to unjustly imprison the accused and prevents the government from torturing the accused. The Ninth Amendment acknowledges that our rights are not limited to those specifically stated in the Constitution or in the Bill of Rights. Examples of rights not specifically identified include the right to travel, vote, maintain privacy, and many others. The 10th Amendment further defines the balance of power between the states and the federal government. Fundamentally, it says the federal government has only those powers specifically identified in the Constitution, and that any power not listed is left to the states or to the people. Examples of issues that the 10th Amendment leaves to the states include laws affecting the family, such as marriage, divorce, and adoption, commerce within states, and local law enforcement issues. Well, that concludes this overview of the Bill of Rights. As previously mentioned, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were discussed in previous presentations, and the remaining amendments to the Constitution will be discussed in an upcoming presentation. Further, there are separate presentations with greater detail governing the legislative, executive, and judicial branches to the federal government. Thanks for viewing this presentation, and please like and subscribe.